Hey, welcome back to History Rescue. My name is Chris. I got my daughter Abby on the camera. This little marshmallow over here, the guard cat. And tonight we've got a Llama Comanche Model 3. And we're going to do a complete disassembly, reassembly, a little bit of cleaning on it. And let's get started. Firearm is empty. I'm going to take the grip off first. It's easy enough. Just one flathead screw. Sometimes you gotta pry on these just a little bit. They've got a locating pin at the top and bottom of the grip on these. I have the locating pin at the top and bottom on these, and they get a little tight sometimes. These a lot of people say these guns are Smith & Wesson clones, but the commonality of a Smith & Wesson and these pretty much ends at the outside look of them, because the insides are quite different. We'll go ahead and take our cylinder out. Get our cylinder crane retaining screw out right here. Take that out. You can open your cylinder back up, give it a wiggle, it'll come out. You got to get this knurled nut off the end of your cylinder here. That'll just unscrew. You can slide your whole cylinder crane off. Then you'll unscrew this. It'll come out along with your spring. And then out the bottom side, you can push your cartridge ejector out. And you have your cylinder lock plunger and spring that'll come out. And when you go to put this back in, your ejector, when you go to put it back in, there's 3 tabs and a grooved section, so it'll only actually go in one way, so you can't put it in wrong. That's your cylinder completely disassembled. Now on your crane, if you want to, there's a roll pin right here. The other side of it comes out right here. If you need to, for some reason, you can take that out, and this part of your crane, you technically can take it out and it's replaceable, but probably not a good idea. Now we do have your cylinder lock right here. You can take this plunger out. We'll take that out real quick. See if we can get this moving. Just a little roll pin in here, you just gotta line it up. Pull that little pin out. Then you can remove your lock plunger and spring. Then you can take, push, and your actual crane lock will pop out, and your crane lock spring. We'll go ahead and put this back together and get this cylinder out of the way here. So we'll go with your spring. There it is. We'll go with your crane lock spring. We'll go in. There's 2 holes in here. It'll go in the hole to your front side. Then your crane lock will go in like this in the hole towards the rear. And if you'll notice, there's an angled cut on this crane lock, and that engages this plunger, which is also angled, and it will when the plunger gets pushed in, it'll pull the lock up. So we'll just slide that back in there, push it in, get our plunger spring. Now when you go to put this back in on the angled portion here, it needs to go in just like this. So it can lock into place. Then get your roll pin here. It just slides right back in the hole. A little tap. And seat it back down into place. That's good. We'll take and put our cylinder back together. I was going to clean this gun, but it looks fairly clean. Get your cylinder lock and spring. And put your center pin spring back in, and your center pin. You just have to push in. Once you get that started, just snug it back up. Put your cylinder crane back in. You got a little shot of lubrication there. And then you take your nut, goes back on the end. Goes good and hand tight. They don't need to be super tight. If you get them super tight, you won't ever get them back off again. Not without messing your gun up. So, good and hand tight is all they need to be. set that assembly aside for a second. Alright. We'll go with our side plate here real quick and get it off. First we're going to take our cylinder lock release off. This one's simple, it's just one screw. It'll come off. It is a little cap screw in there. You got your lock and your cap screw. So on these guns, there's two screws on the side plates that holds the side plate on, and unlike a Smith that's on this side, these side plates are over here on the left side. So we'll get our two screws out real quick. Put that one aside. Now, on this back screw, the screw doubles as the locator pin for the grip. This side is the screw. This side is the nut for the screw. So you're going to have to hold this nut while you take the screw off. There's your screw. There's the nut. Screw that right back on so we don't lose it. Alright, now we gotta get our side plate off. Generally the easiest way to do that is just get you a good sized screwdriver, come right here on the back side of it and pop it right up. There's nothing else in this that you can take apart, it's just a solid piece. Alright. Now, the first thing we take off on these is your cylinder release. And all you gotta do to get it off is pull it back and lift it straight up. Next we've got our cylinder hand. We're going to take and pop that out. It's under spring tension, so you'll hear a little spring pop when you go to get it off. But just stick a screwdriver under it and pull it straight up. Next, if you'll work your hammer back a little bit and wiggle your trigger, you can pull your trigger straight up and out of there. Sometimes it's easy to pop out, sometimes not so much. It's under spring tension as well, so you'll hear a spring click when you take it out. There it goes. Now, if you ever need to, your cylinder hand goes in this little hole right here. The big pin goes in this little hole, and the small pin goes in this little bean shaped groove right here. Now in here is a tension spring that's held in by this little bitty pin, and that is the spring that adds tension to your hand. So if you ever need to, I'm not going to take it out tonight because it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but if you ever need to, you take that pin out right there on the front of your trigger, and it will remove the spring for your hand, which rides down in this groove. You can look right in the back right here and see the tip of that pin, that spring. Alright, next we'll take our cylinder stop and cylinder stop spring out. The spring is easy enough, just get you a little pick. Oh, we gotta wait on Marshmallow here. Get you a little pick. You can come through right here and just come straight up with that spring. You'll get your cylinder stop spring out right there. Then you can take your pick here. You can reach inside and push your cylinder stop down, and 9 times out of 10 you just turn your gun over and it'll fall right out. When you put it back in, the top part of this little hook is going to go up. This is what comes up into your cylinder and locks it. Actually, it'll face this way inside the gun, but it'll come up and it'll lock your cylinder in your grooves. Alright, next we'll take our hammer out. This is a fairly simple hammer and spring to get out. And just sort of hold your hand over here so you don't have a spring flying. And you'll take your spring lock right here and just push it straight up. It'll come right out. Pull your spring out. If you need to, there's a little roll pin right here in the end. You can pull your spring down and knock that little roll pin out. Then your washer and your spring will come off if you need to take that off. If you don't, there's no sense in ever taking that apart. Then you can rotate your hammer back and up, and it will come off. If you ever need to disassemble your hammer any further, there is a pin that goes through right here, and that's where your strut from your main spring goes into and rides on that little pin. If it ever breaks or whatever, you can take that out to replace it, or you can remove this by taking that pin out. There's a little spring right behind there that holds it in place. Other than that, fairly simple. Not much else left to take apart on that. Then we have your hammer cam there. It just pops right off. There is another spring in here. It's right here. This is your trigger return spring. It's not the easiest thing in the world to get out, so if you don't need to take it out, there's no reason to. It's easy enough to manipulate this end of it, but when it comes around, on the short end here, it locks into this little groove, and there's no reason to take it out unless there's a problem with it. And then if you ever need to, you can just get a little pick under there and get it picked up and pop it out of that groove, and they'll come right off. You can remove the rear sight on this easy enough if you need to. There's a screw at the front, a screw at the back. And you get your screw in the back right here. It'll come out. This is also your elevation adjustment screw if you ever need to adjust it for elevation. Just be careful of these little screws, they're small and you don't want to lose them. There's your front screw. And our rear screw. Your rear screw will come out and your whole rear side will come off. The rear screw is retained inside. You can take it out if you need to, but there's a small spring and a super tiny little detent ball in there, so be careful if you take it out. You don't want to lose it. You can also take apart your the windage part of your rear sight. There's a screw, your adjustment screw on this side, and on this side you need a very small little spanner wrench, and there's a spanner nut on this side. I'm not going to take it apart, but you'll essentially hold your screw here, keep it from turning, and then unscrew your spanner nut, and then your screw and will come off, and the windage part of your rear side will come off. Take the barrel out if you need to, it just screws out. Wouldn't mess with that unless you have to. There's also the firing pin here. It's pressed in. I wouldn't mess with that unless you ever have to. And that's just about it. If you need to, the locating pin down here is just press fit. You can press it out one side, out the other side, and that's pretty much all there is to it. We'll get her put back together for you real quick. We're going to start with the rear sight. I set it up here. I like putting the front pin in first, because once you start screwing the back screw down, the front screw don't want to fit, because it's you'll see it's sort of shaped like a spring, because that's essentially what it is. Get that snug down. And then I find it easier if you'll use your thumb and pull your sight down a little bit. And then you can hit your rear sight, get it started. Your rear sight screw. I can get that set back down there to where you need it. Then if you had taken this trigger return spring off, you get that put back down in there real quick. Get your cam for your hammer. It just sets right back down over that stud. We'll give this stuff a little bit of lubrication as we're putting it back together. And then your hammer, wipe that down real quick. This gun's in pretty good shape. It doesn't look like it's been used or abused very much. I called myself going to give it a cleaning, but there ain't much there that needs cleaned. Just a little bit of old grease dried up there. Fit your hammer back down right over top of that cam. Get your hammer spring and strut. Remember that little hook goes on that pin on the back of the hammer right there. Just set it in there. Set your spring in there. Push up and get right back down the hole. That's probably the easiest hammer spring in the world to change. We'll take and put our cylinder lock back in. Now it's going to slide down over. It's going to slide down over this pin. It's going to go in this hole, and this hook is going to go above this pin and back into the bottom of the frame right here. Just like that. And then it'll rotate as it needs to and come up and lock your cylinder. And get your cylinder stop spring in real quick. There are two sides of this spring.
Can't see it, blurry.
The double side of the spring that's got the split in it is going to go to the barrel side of the gun. The solid side of the spring is going to go towards the hammer. And it's going to go right back in this little bitty hole right here. You'll just take and set it you just set it right there just like that. It's easier to do than show you. If you'll just set it right there, get you a little pick. I use my pick to hold it into place. And you just need to make sure that you get your sides of your spring down inside the frame. Sometimes you just gotta play with it for a second to get it to fall right back into place. When it goes in, it goes right in. It just takes it a second to pop in there sometimes. There you go. Once you get both sides in, you just push it down and push it straight back down into that little groove right there. It'll look just like that once it's installed. Alright. This next part, this is the tricky part. You got to get your hammer return spring, your cylinder hand, the cylinder hand spring, and your cam for your hammer all lined up together in this one little spot. So the easiest way to do that is to take you're going to put your hand back in your hammer. Remember, the long pin is going to go in this little hole. The short pin is going to go in this little bean-shaped slot. So you're going to put it in just a little bit, rotate it to the very back corner of this bean-shaped slot. And as you do that, you'll push in just a little bit, and it'll push that spring out just enough where you can grab it with a hook. And you want to take and pull that spring forward just enough to where you can get that hand to come up underneath that spring. Sometimes you gotta play with it for just a second to get it to do what you want it to do. And there it goes. It popped in. Sometimes you just gotta play with it for a minute. Now, you don't want it pushed all the way in, so you want to take and push it back out like you're taking it out just a little bit. You want to look in from the top right here, and you'll see that spring, and you want to line that pin up with the edge of that spring so it just captures that spring. Be sitting about like that with a little bit of gap right in here, and if you'll look right in there, you'll see your spring, and it's just barely catching the small pin of this hand to hold that spring in place. You'll take your trigger over this pin, going through this hole right here. Now your trigger return spring right here, once you set this in, you'll get your pick and you'll come up behind the trigger, and you can push that spring up, and what you're going to do is you're going to put that spring up, and it's going to go over the top of this stud right here. Right here. So you're going to pry your spring up and then let it pop back over behind that stud so that it'll be sitting on top of it. While you're doing that, you can't push that hand in yet, otherwise you'll have to take it all back out and start over. So you put it on and push your trigger itself down as far as it'll go at this point. Not the hand, just the trigger. Then you'll come up behind. Sometimes it's easier to come from this way, sometimes it's easier to push, whichever way is better for you. You'll come up behind, grab that spring, and you'll come up and pop it right on top of that stud. Then behind your hammer, you've got your hammer cam, and it's got a slot in it that hand rides in. So you need to make sure that's pushed over to catch that on your hand. Then you'll take your hand and rotate it backwards behind this little pin, and then wiggle it until it pops into place. There it goes, just like that. Now you should be able to have function. You'll take your cylinder release. It's got a little rust on it. Let me clean that off real quick. Well, Now your cylinder release, it's just going to set down just like that and then push it forward. And this pin will essentially go through your cylinder center pin hole back here. This is what actually releases your cylinder when you push your switch. You'll push, and that pin will come up and hit your cylinder release detent right there in your center pin. We got that back in. Everything looks good. Give it a good shot of lube there. Put our side plate back on. There's a little tab on the top side that's got to go in first, right here. So you'll take and rotate that in first and push it down. Side plates usually need a little encouragement from a non-marring hammer or non-marring something you can hit it with. That's not going to damage anything. And we'll go with our rear screw and nut first. Go straight in. Screw that nut on, get it started. You'll have to hold it with your finger and tighten your screw up. Then you'll get your front screw. This is a very fine threaded screw. You gotta be careful not to cross thread it when you put it back in. Get it going. Snug that down good and tight. Be careful not to let that screwdriver slip out. And then we'll put our cylinder release button on. It's got a little bit of rust on it. I'm going to clean it off real quick. Using a nylon brush, we don't want to scratch the finish up. Alright. Drop it right back on there. Some people want to use a little Loctite on this cap screw. You can. You don't have to. But if you want to, if it makes you feel better, you can put a little semi-permanent Loctite on there. Just gotta get it lined up just right. There it is. You don't have to put no Loctite on it. Just snug it down real good. But if you just want some on there, it ain't gonna hurt nothing. You can put it on there if you want to. Check the function on it. Now we can take our cylinder, slide our crane back in. shut it up. Get our cylinder crane retaining screw. Stick it back in there. Marshmallow, the guard cat's back at it. You want that good and snug. You get a little shot of lube down there on your crane. Work it in and out a couple times to get it good and lubed up. Stick your grips back on and we'll be done. And remember, there's 2 locating pins on these grips, the top and the bottom. So make sure they both line up when you go to stick them on. And we'll put our grip screw back in. Snug that on down. You don't want your grip screw loose, but you don't want to super tighten it either, because you don't want to crack your wood or pull the screw insert out. So just snug it pretty good. As long as your grips ain't loose, you're good. Check function. There we go. That's going to be our Llama Comanche number 3.
Yeah.
Alright, there you go. There's our Llama Comanche number 3 in 357. Keep in mind, these videos are just intended for the average consumer to be able to clean and maintain their firearms in a safe manner. If you have a serious issue with your firearm, or you don't feel confident in your abilities, please take it to a qualified gunsmith. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe. That way we can get more of them out to you. Thank y'all very much.